Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Flip Side Podcast. I'm your host, Retro Ralph. I'm excited to talk to you guys today because we are gonna dive into my history. Sort of what games have I purchased so far, being in the hobby a little over, I'd say you could call it close to 4 years, but we'll say 3. I've been in the hobby a little over 3 years. What has been my experience? What games have I owned? What decisions did I make that maybe I regret? And let's just look back on that, because I think you can learn a lot by your actions if you really, especially in a hobby when you're beginning in it, right? You got to get excited. You might make some quick decisions and you don't know what you don't know, right? People aren't born with, knowing everything about the hobby they enter into, right? You have to learn. It'd be awesome if you could instantly have knowledge, but you have to learn by doing or learn by experiencing things. And that's kind of what this is going to be, because it's going to be this look into my mental state as I was buying these things. You know what I mean? Because I didn't know what I didn't know. So I made a lot of mistakes along the way. Maybe you'll learn from these. I don't know. Maybe you won't. But if you're newer, you might. If you've been in the hobby for a while, you're going to be like, yeah, I've done that before. So maybe it'll just be validation. I don't know. But anyway, whatever it is, it's going to be a bit of therapy for all of us. But before we get started, let's quickly have a word from our sponsor, and then we'll dive right into it. Are you looking for a new pinball machine, a used pinball machine, or to trade in your old pinball machine for something new? Look no further than Flippin' Out Pinball. They can handle all your pinball needs. They ship anywhere in the United States, and they will give you the best experience in the business. Check out the link to Flippin' Out Pinball in the video description for more information. Now, back to the video. Okay, so we are back. Thank you to Zach at Flippin' Out Pinball for the sponsorship. And if you're looking for a new used pinball machine, go check those guys out. Okay, so we're going to get right into it. So we're going to visit our favorite site, Pinside. Everyone's favorite, most positive site about pinball. There's a lot of great things about Pinside, but, there's some people that hang out there every now and then, just really there to not necessarily be the most welcome wagon committee, but hey, I appreciate the site for the way I use it, and I feel like it's actually been pretty valuable for me. So when you sign up for Pinside, if you're not familiar, you can actually create your collection of games that you currently own. But also, as you sell them off or maybe upgrade your collection or change it, whatever you want to call it, whatever term you want to use, you can then move it to your history. Now, what I did was I had not really done this or maintained this throughout time. So what I ended up doing is I went back in and then added all the games more recently that I used to own. And I did this just so I could, so part of me was like, maybe I'll learn from doing this exercise. So I went and put in all the games that I currently own, and then I basically put all the games I've ever owned, and then I archived off all the ones that I've sold. So we can see a little bit of how I progress through the hobby. So it's kind of fun. So this is the current collection, but it's more interesting to me to look at the historicals. So if you look at this, it says I have 6 in my current collection and 8 in my history. So that means I've moved along 8 games total, and I have 6 at this point left, so it's, anyways. So you can see kind of what's going on. So I'm going to click on the history, and there's a lot of games in here. There's 8 games. So over the time that I've been in this hobby, I've sold off or moved along or traded 8 games, which is kind of crazy considering it's only been a little over 3 years. So I feel like that's a lot of games, but also, like I said, you don't know what you don't know. But the game that started it all for me was Jurassic Park Pro. So Jurassic Park Pro I got after coming back from my first Pinball Expo. This was the Pinball Expo that launched Godzilla. So this would have been probably the first Pinball Expo after the pandemic, or the first one back from the pandemic. So anyways, people were still masked up and all that stuff. So there's a video out there somewhere. If I could find the footage, I'll put it in the video, but I don't know that I can. But in that video, I say something like, man, I really want to buy I should own a pinball machine, or I really want to buy a pinball machine, or pinball's fun, or something to that degree. But still at that point, my skills were not great. I probably just, went up to a machine and flipped it a little bit, but didn't really understand the fundamentals, didn't really understand how deep the code could be on some of these games, and how fun it could be if you understood the rules of modern pinball. But anyway, so I got back from that show, I bought Jurassic Park Pro, and that was my first game. Now, when I say I learned some things, Jurassic Park Pro is probably a good first game to pick, but the thing is, I don't think I gave it time because I didn't let my skills develop and really enjoy the game. And at that time, I was teetering back and forth on, do I want a Jurassic Park or a Stranger Things or a Deadpool? Those were the games. And Stranger Things was more influenced because at the time and still do, I really love the series. I can't wait for it to come back. It's coming back this year. I'm very excited to see what happens. Like, Eddie has to be alive, guys. Like, he can't be dead. How can Eddie be dead? He was like one of my favorite characters. Please, Eddie, be alive. And they didn't really show him dying, really. So I don't know, man. My theory is Eddie's still alive somewhere. He better come. He's like such a cool character in the show. Anyways, Eddie, I believe in you, man. You're still out there. I know you are. Please be in the current season. Everyone would be very happy. But anyways, back to the collection. So I sold off Jurassic Park Pro after not a lot of time. So I didn't really enjoy that game. I didn't get a chance to appreciate that game. And then I went from Jurassic Park Pro to a Stranger Things Pro. This was a time where I was still very heavily involved in the arcade game hobby, restoration, collection hobby. So I didn't put as much stake into pinball at that time. And that was consuming a lot of my time because when you're in the arcade hobby, you're constantly fixing, repairing, restoring, and probably not playing much. So it wasn't until later that I realized, wow, it'd be really cool to like buy something modern and play it and be involved in a hobby where there's new things coming out all the time. And that's kind of what ultimately gravitated me toward pinball because, anyways, we'll get back to the list real quick. Okay, so we're back in the list. Stranger Things Pro. Now, for those of you that don't know, the Pro and the Premium to me are basically the same. Pro Premium LE and Stranger Things, outside of, obviously, you get additional things with the trim levels. This is one of those games where the shot layout is basically 100% the same. There really isn't much on the playfield that would distinguish these two, even with the LE, and it's mainly the telekinesis multi-ball. So for those of you that don't know, on Stranger Things, there's this magnet that Eleven, her hand is sort of in the back, and when you light the locks and you go up the left ramp, it locks it like sort of magnetizes the ball on her hand. She'll hold all three as you lock all three and then release it for multi-ball, which is a very cool feature, but a little finicky. Sometimes it doesn't work 100% the way it should. But anyways, kind of cool. So you lack that feature in the Pro. The other feature is the projector, and the projector's freaking cool. I can't deny that the projector isn't cool, and that of course Stern never made the UV a standard feature. I don't know why, because I don't even think I don't know this for sure. I don't know if the UV was a standard feature on the LE. I actually don't know that. But it's definitely not a standard feature on the Pro or the Premium. You had to buy the kit. Now, the nice thing is that that UV ink is on all of the playfields, so you can upgrade that no matter which one you have. Anyways, I'm going down a rabbit hole on Stranger Things right now, but I really enjoyed Stranger Things. I think it helped me develop my shots a little bit. It's a Brian Eddy game. Those right and left ramp shots, you'd expect them to be really easy, and they're a little challenging. So I think it was the start of me realizing shot accuracy is important, because when you're bricking balls, you're not having fun. And some games are more forgiving than others, where you can be kind of more casual and you're still hitting things and still shooting up ramps and things. So there's some games that can be a little bit more forgiving. I'd say Stranger Things is not one of those. Like, those shots can be pretty tight on the left and right ramp. So you gotta hone in your skills. So I feel like I did learn a little bit on that. And then Stranger Things, I don't know. I felt like I wanted something a little bit more, because that game is really, the Demogorgon is a very exciting thing, right? You hit the drop targets, and at some point you can then shoot down the middle, and then the ramp comes down, you fight the Demogorgon, and that progression gets more difficult as you play, though. Instead of one round of drop targets, you gotta hit one down, then another round until you get to the second, and then of course it just progressively gets more difficult. But it is fun. It's exciting to battle the Demogorgon. So that didn't get old for a while. I'd say I played it for a while now, and I wasn't playing at the frequency I am now. Like, now I'm playing every single day. If I don't play, actually, I don't have a day that I haven't played in the last, I think I'm up to like 160 something days straight of gameplay. So I haven't taken breaks, and I don't want to. I'm having so much fun. But back then, it took me a lot longer to experience a game because I wasn't playing every day. And I had a couple games in my collection, and like I said, I was kind of focused more on the arcade stuff. So after Stranger Things, I'm trying to remember what happened after Stranger Things. I think after Stranger Things, shoot, I don't even know the order. I think it was Godzilla. So I think after Stranger Things, I got Godzilla. And Godzilla, I freaking loved. Again, though, my skills were developing, but this was right around the time where I started really understanding and watching like Joel on the Flipping Out channel, like watching him and go, okay, these games could be so much more fun if I understood the software. People say code. By the way, I hope everyone understands this. If you're newer to the hobby, you're probably like, why does everyone always say code, code, code? It's the software that runs the game, right? It's basically what is the software when you do certain things with the pinball, what is the software program to do? For instance, like when I hit these 4 drop targets, this thing is going to come down. I then can fight the Demogorgon. Like the code tells the game what to do. So the game is, even though the physical layout of a pinball machine can be really exciting, a big piece of how fun it is based on how the game is programmed, aka the code, and then also the LCD. Like, is the LCD intriguing? Now, I will say that the more I play, the less I actually look at the LCD. Like, the LCD really, to me, it's cool that it's there, but you're not really glancing at it often. Like, I'll say with Metallica, I tend to look at it a lot because it's telling you how many more shots you need or hits on whatever target you're on you need, whether it's, how many balls have you put in the snake's mouth so far, or how many times have you hit the hammer, the captive ball. It'll tell you like 5 more and then lock will be lit. So there's some stuff in there, and sometimes the LCD has some informational things, but when you're in a hot and heavy game, I'd say you're not looking at the LCD very often, if at all. But anyways, so Godzilla, my skills were starting to get a little bit better. I started to understand the code a little bit better, understood how to start modes and maybe even complete some modes. So my progression was going pretty good. But I did this all within a short period of time. Then I believe around this time, actually, believe it or not, I'm thinking is when the Stern program started. So that's when Stern got a hold of me and said, hey, we watched, and the funny thing is they watched my Jurassic Park video. It wasn't Stern, by the way. It's this like third-party marketing company called I don't know, 47, I think is what it's called. So it was random. I got this random email. It looked like spam, to be honest, because it was one of those emails. It's like, hey, we saw your video on Jurassic Park and we thought it was really well done. Like, are you interested? It was kind of like, are you interested in some kind of like partnership with Stern? It didn't really explain what that partnership was. And it was a ton of emails back and forth for a ridiculous amount of time before I actually got to someone at Stern, which was Joe Marchfield. Anyway, so got to him, and then finally we figured out the program. Like I figured out how to, and I think my first game that they wanted me to do, and it was funny, there was really no rules to this. Like it honestly didn't even say you had to create content on it, which I thought was weird. And then it was kind of just like, yeah, you're a YouTuber, so here's the game, and you're going to have 4 games over a period of like 4 months. And then there was no like contract signed or anything that would kind of make this a longer term thing or anything like that. It was really very loose. Again, like nothing signed, no real expectations of what to create. It didn't say post stuff here or there. But it was maybe implied like, hey, if you made some content, that's kind of what we're looking at. But it wasn't really like bold and in your face. So it was kind of weird to me that someone would be willing to put something this expensive at my house without really much. Like there was really not a lot of like, hey, this is our expectations. So anyways, I felt a lot of pressure because at the time I was like, wow, this is really cool for Stern Pinball, who I've bought their games. I was buying their games, obviously, for them to say, hey, we're going to loan you this game for some period of time. Think about that. That would be very exciting to anybody. So that was really exciting. And the first game that they gave me was Venom Premium. And the thing is, so the reason why Venom Premium was kind of fun to me was because Stranger Things and Godzilla, like I was starting to get shot accuracy down. The thing about Venom is Venom can be like a really difficult game in the sense that it's a fan layout and you just got to be accurate with your shots. When you start bricking like when the first couple times you play Venom and your shot accuracy is not good, it's not that fun. But I actually really enjoyed Venom. I enjoyed that the sort of the innovative things they did with Insider Connected and all that. I thought that was really cool. Like that was a cool thing that they did with Venom. And then that was, you could argue that was like sort of version 1.0 of them saying, could we level up characters, save game progression? And this was Brian Eddy again and Dwight on the code. And I think they did a great job with it personally. And I don't think this game gets enough credit, to be honest. And I don't know if it's because maybe the people that have been in the hobby for a while, they don't enjoy fan layouts as much. And maybe that's why they want something a little bit more intricate and a little, not just so obvious that all the shots are just right in front of you. And I think depending on the level of player, that can sometimes be hard to play those kinds of games. You know what I mean? Until you really get good at them. So if someone just walks up, and Venom Pro was really bad. So Venom Pro was like really bare and bad. But the thing is, I hadn't played Venom Pro. So to me, I really enjoyed the premium. And I think a lot of the hate Venom gets is actually from the Pro, because they stripped the Pro down big time. Now, I will say this. Stern seems to be, right now, something is going on at Stern, I think, where they're saying, hey, by the way, guys, I have no knowledge into what they're going to do with pricing. No idea. But, the Loser Kid guys, love those guys, by the way. Josh and Scott, awesome dudes. They've been doing these awesome interviews lately, and they had Seth Davis, the current CEO of Stern Pinball, on, and they asked him about, they were pretty, they were pretty bold and said, hey guys, like not bold, but they just asked the difficult questions, in a respectful manner. They're very respectful guys. And they, you can ask tough questions. It's all about your delivery, right? Are you respectful? And they're very respectful. And I love that about them. They're just positive guys. You can be critical, and like that's my mantra. You can be critical of something and provide feedback on something without being a jerk. And those guys are just class acts, right? So anyway, so they talked to Seth Davis, and Seth Davis is talking about, kind of implying like, hey, we haven't raised prices in a while, but maybe, he doesn't commit to they are or they aren't. But why I bring that up is that it seems like now Stern's on sort of this path where they're putting more into the Pro. If you look at games like X-Men, if you look at, like more recent games, I'd say probably X-Men, you look at D&D, like there's a theme where they're really starting to make these pros packed, with a lot of things, so it doesn't seem like you're losing a lot. And I think that's so that it doesn't feel like you automatically as a home buyer have to buy a premium. And I think that's always kind of been the way, unless someone really likes the shots. Although I will say this, like I know I'm kind of all over the place in this episode. I recently played a Jaws Pro, and I think this has more to do with where I'm at in the hobby right now, is I'm really enjoying playing. Like I've become a player, in my opinion. Like it's not a casual thing for me anymore. And I think that's because I do competition too. It's fun, but I've graduated out of this idea that I need more stuff on the playfield to be fun. Because I'll tell you this, I had so much fun playing that Jaws Pro, and I felt like it was like flowing better. I don't know if it's because it doesn't have that upper playfield. I mean, I do like the boat. The boat is cool, but I didn't really miss it. And it makes me think, this is what really, like, why I kind of wanted to do this episode, is I feel like it really made me realize, am I automatically in my head just programmed that the premium is just better all the time? And so I discount the pros as like, that's not even something I want to like in my mind, I do believe I've mentally wrote off pros until more recently, where I'm playing them going, these play great. Like I just picked up where we'll get to it in a minute. I just picked up a Black Knight Sword of Rage Pro, and it's awesome. I've played the premium. The premium has that catapult in the secondary playfield, which is interesting because historically speaking, that's what kind of made Black Knight, right? So to not have that, it kind of seems, oh well, the Pro is missing something that would pay respect to the original. But to me, and you will hear this a lot from people, the catapult changes that game in the sense that game is fast and brutal, and it slows it down. So I think you lose a little bit of that aggressiveness that I think Steve Ritchie was going for in the game. But anyways, I digress on that. But the moral of the story there is, don't feel this like pressure to always go premium. Some of these pros, especially in modern times, are really good. And this goes back to my collection again. So after Venom, I ended up really enjoying Venom, but Venom was part of the program, so I had to give Venom back. So you had to give it back. You know, they just loan it to you. They don't let you have it, right? And there's no discount, by the way, if you want to buy it. It's not like they're like, oh, you're part of the program. You know, you get it at cost. No, there's nothing like that. It's just, yeah, if you want to buy it, I'll sell it to you, but you're gonna pay what everyone else pays. Not that I expected a discount. I'm just saying there's no perk to the program if anybody was wondering. So, anyways, I mean, outside of you getting the games. So I ended up really liking Venom, and I bought it. Now, you're probably wondering, why is there a Venom Premium and a Venom LE on here? Because I'm an idiot. I bought Venom Premium after I demoed it. Then I sold Venom Premium, and I missed it. And then I was like, I like this game so much. So many people are going to make fun of me for this. I like this game so much that I'm going to buy the LE. But the thing is, the reason why the LE was appealing to me at the time is because distros really couldn't sell them. So they were fire sailing the LEs. They were calling them open box. I don't know. I have no idea whether they were really open box, whether they were demo, but I'll tell you, the Venom LE I got it came in a box brand new. I think maybe the box had been cracked open, but for all intents and purposes, this was a brand new Venom LE. But this wasn't that long ago that I got this. So anyway, so I got the Venom LE. And then I was like, what am I doing? Like, I was like, what am I doing? I had progressed through Venom. I had, you know, I wouldn't say I saw the whole game, but I'd say I got a good enough experience with it that I was like, you know what, it's time for it to go out to pasture. So I ended up, the cool thing is I posted a random post on Twitter about my Venom LE, and a buddy of mine that lives down in Florida that's been a fan of the channel, and we've become friends over time, you know, friends in real life. I met him in real life. He, you know, not just virtual friends. But yeah, it's cool. He's a really nice guy, and he's like, hey man, I love Venom. I'd love to buy your Venom LE. So I felt like that was cool because he's someone I know that's gonna have the game, that's gonna enjoy it. So anyway, so I moved Venom LE on. So now that leads me to James Bond. James Bond comes in as the next game they want me to showcase on the channel for the Stern program. And I'm thinking to myself, I am so uninterested in this game. Nothing about it. I was like, it's the pro. And this is still when I had my dumb pro mindset. Oh, pro's crap, blah, blah. Like, oh, they sent me the pro. Like, you know what I mean? Like they sent me some piece of crap. Well, come to find out, this was after the code, though. So James Bond, at least historically, when I talk to people that have been in the hobby for longer, I've never played the original code. So I can't comment. I can only comment on what other people say. The consensus in the community was, holy crap, when James Bond came out, the code was just underdeveloped and underwhelming, which made the game not popular with a lot of people. And I think that was also reflective of the sales of the game. And it wasn't until later that they improved. So I got the game way later, because this is way late in its life cycle, really. And the code was all, you know, modernized. I mean, not modernized, but it was past 1.0. And I fell in love with that game. I was like, holy crap, this is fun. Now, there are things you don't have in the pro, but this is another one of those games where it's like, okay, there's a physical ball lock over by the missile or the dongly boing thing. I'm not going to say what people say that thing looks like. It's a freaking rocket, okay? It's a rocket. It's not what your dirty mind is thinking. It's a rocket. So anyways, it's a rocket. So I don't even know what I was saying. What am I going with that? Oh, so you miss the physical ball lock, and you don't have the jetpack dude. And then you don't have there's like this on the left where the ball can kind of go in that little, I don't even know what you call that thing. I don't know if you'd call that a scoop. I don't know. It's like I don't know, whatever. That thing the thing on the left that sucks the ball in, it's all, it doesn't suck it in, but it seems like it does. It's all, so you suck the ball on the left. On the pro, it's just a piece of plastic. On the premium, there's a really cool like underwater scene that actually has these like model characters that are actually under it's like a clear, it's very cool. It's basically like a clear piece of plexi or a plastic on the top. And then there's characters on the bottom and a light lights up. It's very cool. It's this underwater scene. It gives this feeling of depth. It's very cool actually. But these are minor things. It's not like the premium and the LE have these major differences. So to me, I fell in love with the pro. And of course I got rid of it because we're looking at the historical list, but I would actually consider getting James Bond again. It was that good. I have that much fun with it. It's just a cool ass game. And the thing is, I had zero expectations going into it. But here's the other thing too. And this is what made me approach it with an open mind. My grandfather, when he was alive, we used to watch James Bond all the time together. And so there's a little bit of like nostalgia memories for me. And it's definitely the era of movies that this game was made after. So it was very, very cool to me. Uh, anyway, I like it. I like it a lot, and I would get it again. But also that these games had the one thing that's interesting about game variety is as you start having all of these variety of games, it really improves your skills. Now, I'm not saying you have to own all these to have this happen. You can totally go on Pinball Map, find a place near you on location, find a tournament, whatever, find places, locations you can play, and you can experience a variety of games there. But I wasn't into location play so much right then. It wasn't until like probably really truly where I fully appreciated and I was like, holy crap, I love location play, was more over the last, I'll even call it year. So I started playing more in tournaments over the last year. And that's when I really, really appreciated location play for two reasons. One, tournament play is fun. It's competitive. I'm a competitive person, which is frustrating because you realize how not good you are at pinball when you play against some of these people, but it's made me a better player. And I've got to experience lots of different games. But at that time I wasn't really going out and doing that much. So my home collection was how I did that. So anyway, so that was part of the Stern program. That had to move on, but I did buy that one. So they didn't even send it back. I went to the distributor who, that's how the program works. They give you the game through a distributor. This one, it was Game Room Goodies. And I'm like, Aaron, I want to buy it. He's like, okay, cool. Like, that's cool. I don't have to pick it up. So, and Stern didn't care because they're like, cool, you mean you want to buy it? Awesome. And I just sold another game. So anyways, there was a pattern. They kept giving me the stupid games to do like videos on or whatever, and I was buying the games. So I don't know, maybe that was smart on their behalf. But anyways, so you can see like my love for these games and it just kind of snowballed from here, and my skills were getting better as I went along. There's probably people that don't care about developing their skills, but I truly think that if you're gonna really appreciate a game, there's two things that I'd say will make games more fun for you. Working on your shot accuracy and your general skills, and just like the repetition of it, like playing more, play more, and then learn the code. Go to like those flipping out streams and go learn how to play the game. Because I will say the one thing that's kind of the one not so approachable thing about modern pinball is, yeah, sure, there's the little card on the game that sort of tells you how to basically get started. But there's really not and there's a rule sheet, but the rule sheets are long, man. Like if you brought someone, you're trying to introduce someone to the hobby and you're like, hey, here's this 25-page rule sheet to learn how to play James Bond. You're going to be like, what? You're going to overwhelm people. So I like those things, especially like the quick tutorials that Joel does. The reason why I like that is because it gives you enough to get started. So like get the general knowledge of it. Actually, Travis does a great job too over at the Pinball Company. Tom does a great job. Triple Drain Tom, like he does an awesome job too. Like they do a good job explaining things, and they don't go too deep that you're like, oh man, I'm overwhelmed now. Now I don't know what to do at all. So anyways, James Bond, I kept it, was part of the program. We're going to accelerate and go a little faster now because we're almost 30 minutes in. Then Foo Fighters. So I bought a Foo Fighters and I sold it really quick. I didn't give it a chance though, because I've played it more recently. Now keep in mind also, the theme with some of these games when you buy them, this is just me being honest. It's not a negative thing, by the way. It just is what it is. Stern tends to have various different levels of, depending on which development team is working on the game. Some games come out with more mature code than others. Foo Fighters, I'd say when I got it, it still needed a lot of work. The shot layout and everything was really fun, but they rapidly updated it. I recently played it at Dave & Buster's of all places in Schaumburg. There's a Dave & Buster's that I guess Stern has been testing games out for a while. It's kind of close to Interium, but Interium was closed, so I went over there to check it out. And I was like, wow, they've really made a lot of improvements in Foo Fighters, the code, and I was having a really good time with it. So, of course, I can't keep all these games. I only have room for 6, but I had moved along Foo Fighters, so I sold it very quickly. I actually sold it to a guy, Audie, who owns Cobra Arcade Bar here in Phoenix, and I'm kind of lucky that I sold it when I sold it, because I sold it right when I got it, and I think they hadn't done a second run of it yet. So I basically just sold it for what I paid for it. I think I took a couple $100s off. That was it. So, but that's kind of rare these days, right? It's kind of rare to buy a game, and that's the unfortunate thing too. When I first started in the hobby and bought my Jurassic Park, in that time when I bought that, I was able to sell it for what I paid for it. Sometimes that's true now, and sometimes it's not. So I think the more you go up in trim level, the harder it is to get your money back, especially unless it's something like a Metallica remastered, which they only made 500 of. That seems to be actually going up in value. It's stabilized a little bit, but people are asking a lot more than the MSRP for that game. So Foo Fighters, I had moved on, and then the Stern program said, "Would you like a Foo Fighters?" And that was like my only option at the time. I was trying to get them to. I was like, "Can I have a Jaws?" Like I was like, I wanted to get a Jaws, and like, let's be honest, guys, the games they were presenting to me were games that had stalled in sales. So they weren't saying that, but that's my impression of what they were offering to me, which I was still grateful that they were offering me to showcase these games and let me play them for a while. But these were definitely games that maybe came out of the gate hot and then stalled. Like Venom, I don't know, ever came out hot. But I think the idea of giving me Venom was, hey, let's get people more exposed to Venom, you know? And I really liked it, but I still think it hasn't really done well, which is unfortunate because I really appreciate that game. The Bond, I don't know. Maybe because Bond was later in its lifetime. I don't know. I don't know because I don't think Bond was a bad seller. I think Bond probably stalled out because of code, and then there was probably a resurgence when the code came out. So, anyways, this is the 8 games that have come and gone in my collection, and I've learned a lot. I think I've learned, what kind of games I enjoy. I've learned that, hey, buying a new in box, you're taking on not risk. I don't want to call it risk, but just know, like, maybe you're not going to get the game in its you're not going to get the game in its completion. It's not going to be at 1.0 code. 1.0 isn't even necessarily considered complete, but it's like a very mature game, and then they'll have subsequent updates after 1.0. Like 1.0 is like, okay, you're experiencing the game with a lot of the original design intent there. Like, for instance, like John Wick came out, and there it talked about how that button was the lights out feature, but lights out wasn't even coded in the game yet. It wasn't until recently that that was coded in the game. So just know, like, if you're newer to the hobby, if you buy new in box, I don't want to call it risk. I mean, if it's a Keith Elwin game, like, your risk is probably pretty minimal. But yeah, it just is what it is. Like, some code developers take longer than others, and I don't know. Like, I'm a little worried about John Wick, to be honest, because now we're going to go to my current collection. My current collection has 6 games in it. I'm a little worried about. Why is it not going? Come on. All right. There it is. I'm a little worried about John Wick. So we'll start there. So John Wick is in the collection. And, code development's been a little slow on John Wick. And I bought the LE. So I'm automatically going to probably lose money if I sold it or I had to trade that. But so far, I've been hanging on. But I'm a fan of the movies, and I feel like certain people are like, just don't like John Wick. I think John Wick is difficult. I think the shots are tight, and it's one of those things. The more you play it, the more you enjoy it, and that's only because it takes a little while to get good. To like get the shots down. The code is still a little like the code on John Wick is a little rough. I think they have some good general concepts, but the like whole enemy AI thing is kind of weird. But I really think Tim Sexton is great. So I got to think he's still got some stuff up his sleeve for John Wick. I really hope he does, because I'm still holding on that one. We'll get back to John Wick, because I feel like if there was one right now in this current collection I would maybe get rid of, it'd probably be John Wick. But it's not because I don't like it. It's just that I only have so much space. I can only keep 6. So the current collection is John Wick LE, Jaws Premium, which I love. I love Jaws, but like I said, in retrospect, I could have probably got them pro and had just as much fun with it. So again, learning experiences. You don't always have to get premium or LEs to get the best experience. I mean, the LEs do come with aesthetic things that I think people really enjoy, right? The aesthetics, you can't deny. Like, a powder-coated game looks beautiful. A game with a mirrored backglass looks beautiful. A game with this foiled artwork looks beautiful. But what are you doing? Looking at it or playing it? And I know we do both. There's going to be collectors that want the prettiest game in their collection, and I get that. I get that mindset. And there's some that are like, I'm just a player. I want it to look good enough. But those other things, I don't perceive value. I'm saying the person that thinks the other way. They don't perceive value maybe in any of that, because they're like, that doesn't make the game play better. That just makes it look better. So, but again, these are all things I learned along the way. I know I'm not an idiot. I know that a mirrored backglass isn't going to make my game any more fun, but that's something you have to think about. don't get caught up in, oh my gosh, it looks so beautiful, I gotta have the LE. But maybe you played the premium and you're like, I'm having just as much fun. Why not save yourself some money and get the premium? You know what I mean? Like, don't. And also for resale value right now, I think the LEs are tough. So maybe you make that decision. Like, think about those things. That's why it's like everyone gets excited in these hobbies, but you have to like calm down. And it took me a little while to get there. But I'd say over the past year, I'm like, okay, slow your roll. You learned a lot. Don't be stupid. You know what I mean? But ultimately, hey man, but I get excited about stuff. So I'm telling you what I'm thinking in my brain right now. But sometimes, I don't know, excitement takes over and your decision making is not as I don't know, intelligent, I'll say. So, and I'm okay with that. I know. That's the thing, I know. So it's funny when people try to tell me what to do with my money or tell me what I did with my money was stupid. Because I know more likely than not, I'm not an idiot. No one is. You're not. I'm not. We just get excited. And sometimes, hey, look, we know right now that resale on LEs isn't great. But if it's something you really want and you have the money, you're probably going to get it. But like all of you see what's going on in the resale market. You can't get as much sometimes with some of these LEs. So you just have to factor that into your decision. And if you really want it that bad, then you're going to get it because you can't, they're not putting them on sale. So if you really want it, you're going to have to pay for it, right? I mean, that's what it is. So anyway, Jaws, I'm loving Jaws. And like, I got to give a shout out to Elizabeth Gieske because man, she has done like such a cool job on that Shark is Broken mode. I meant to do a live stream on it. I just think stuff like that is so creative. There's so many modes in that game. The Shark is Broken, you do need the topper for. But there's all these other modes, and I can't think of the name of them right now, like the 8-bit one. There's so many cool things that just add additional value. It's like having multiple games in that game, and I love that. So when someone says, oh my gosh, like Stern and blah, blah, they start getting all negative on Stern. I'm like, dude, they gave you a ton of value in that game because you have all these other things you can do. So I don't know. I just kind of like when people are super negative or they harp on someone for being positive, like there's a lot of positive things you could talk about Jaws. So I don't know. It's actually become one of my favorite games. I don't play it as much for some reason right now, but whenever I go back to it, I'm like, man, this game is great. It's a great game. Another Keith Elwin game. Great game. Great theme integration. If you're a fan of the movies, it's all there. Like it's great. It's just fun. The shots are fun. I think the shots are really fun. I love the little mini flipper on the right, being able to kind of trap that up and hit the targets or hit that one. I can't remember the shot in the middle. It gives you like the shark fin comes up instantly when you do that. It's just cool. The upper play field, I've grown to like a little bit. It's just a shame that you're not up there that long. I don't know. The jury's still out for me on whether or not I'm like a big fan of upper play fields at this point. I think sometimes I am and sometimes I'm not. It just depends on the overall implementation of it. But anyway, so Jaws Premium, I'm loving that. Godzilla 70th, that was my Oh wait, do I have my Godzilla in here? I know I do. I had the color one and I modded the ever-loving crap out of it again. I knew that if I sold it for the 70th, I just saw the 70th and I was like, dude, I love this. I love it. And it's a great game. So Godzilla is one of those games. I've gotten two people that I know to buy Godzillas. One was my buddy Nick out in Vegas. And he said, I want to buy a pinball machine. What could I buy that's just going to be fun from the start? I'm all, Godzilla. He's all, okay. And he loves it. He loves his Godzilla. Another guy from my work, he recently found me on YouTube, didn't know I was actually into pinball. He's like, dude, you have like a podcast and you talk about pinball? I'm like, yeah. So he goes, what game should I get? He's like, I want to get some new games. I'm all Godzilla. And he loves it. He actually got the 70th. My buddy Nick got the color and the original, and he got the 70th. So anyways, then that leads me to more current purchases. I got the Metallica Remastered. The Metallica Remastered is just freaking awesome. It's just so fun. I love Metallica Remastered. You cannot play that game without smiling and have a good time. I will say the overall rules of it it's kind of like one of those, even though there's some elements that make the game a little hard, like I don't know how to explain it. I think sometimes it can be a difficult game, but once you show people, like you can get people to have some fun pinball experiences fast. Like, hey, hit Sparky, keep hitting him. okay, now you got electric chair multi-ball. Like those are exciting for people that are just brand new. So I think you can have someone walk up to a Metallica and get them having a good time, even if they don't know rules of the game and stuff like that. So the rules in that game are very approachable in my opinion, even though I think there's things just like with any game, well, at least a good programmed game usually has some easy multi-balls you can get. And then there's other modes and things that get more difficult as you go along the way. Now, speaking of difficult, John Wick was one of those games where I got it. I like almost instantly regretted the purchase because I felt like it was really hard. But then I started going, no, this is bullshit. I'm just not playing good. Like I'm not good enough right now. Get better. And so that I kept trying to get better. And I think as I got better, I was like, oh my gosh, I really enjoy this game. But it also made me realize, like, wow, if someone comes up to John Wick the first time and they're a casual, they're gonna hate the game. They're gonna be like, it's too fast, it's too all over the place, I can't control the ball. But it's because they're not good at the game yet. But there are some games that are definitely more approachable than others that are a little bit more forgiving for like a beginner. Like I'd say Godzilla, you could probably hack around and you definitely have more fun hacking around Godzilla than you would John Wick, because John Wick is so fast. Even if you put it at the recommended 6.5 pitch, it's still super fast. And if you don't hit a shot, it's like, holy crap, you better be on defense. You better get on that and make sure you know where that ball's coming. Speaking of that, that leads me to my most recent purchase, which was I left out Terminator 2, but we'll go back and talk about that really quick. So I'm gonna try to wrap up the show. Black Knight Sword of Rage. I got the Pro. This game has always intrigued me. My buddy Nick and I, we went to this local place called, he came out to visit. We were actually working on some arcade restorations and stuff. This was actually a couple years ago now. And I can't remember the place we went to. It's a really cool place down in, I think it's Mesa. It's either Mesa or Chandler, Arizona. I can't remember what it's called. It's called Danger Zone. And the guy's got like mostly all LEs, like all premium and LE. I think they might actually be all LEs if I remember right. And him and I just kept pumping money into Black Knight Sword of Rage. And I'm like, why though? It was like hard. We were not getting very far. But it's just the whole way that game is architected and orchestrated is like, oh, you know what? Oh my gosh, guys. Hold on. In my collection history, let's look at this really quick. I do not have the Uncanny X-Men. So that's yet another game that I've had that it's not reflected here. So I've sold 9 and currently have 6. Because Uncanny X-Men is not on here. I sold Uncanny X-Men. If you haven't seen my latest video on Retro Ralph, I sold Uncanny X-Men for Black Knight Sword of Rage. Now, I feel like I should give you a quick, brief explanation as to why. I do say why I did in the video. I want to be very clear. I do not dislike the Uncanny X-Men. I think the layout is amazing. I think Jack Danger was very innovative. He took inspiration from a lot of older games and some stuff in his own head and came up with an amazing modern layout that was unlike anything we've seen in a long time in modern pinball. And so for that, like, hats off. It is really great. The shots are very fun, very innovative. But the thing is, and the game is beautiful. It's beautiful looking. It's beautiful layout. The shots are fun, but I feel underwhelmed by the code development. The missions seem kind of flat. They're not that interesting. And so once you've experienced all the missions, you start going, is this it? Now, keep in mind, it's not even at 1.0 code yet, I don't believe. So there's probably still a ways to go, but I don't know. This is one where I was like, I'm not having as much fun with this anymore, so I'm going to move it on. And funny that I'd go from a game like that to Black Knight Sword of Rage, because Black Knight Sword of Rage is, I will say this straight up, do not buy this game as your first pinball machine. This would be the worst first pinball machine you could ever buy, because it's super difficult and shot accuracy is everything in this game, because it's a fan layout and everything is very close to you. And if you miss a shot, you need to be fully alert and ready to go. And this game does require you to be manhandle your game a little bit. You got to get in there and nudge this game to really play it how I'd say the appropriate way. So yeah, this is not a beginner game. And I don't call myself an expert. I still think I'm very, very intermediate, but I play every day. I feel like my skills are getting better. But again, you're always learning. But this game would not be fun as a first game. But why I got it is I just felt like it's one that's intrigued me for a while. I love what Steve Ritchie did. Like the knight taunting you this whole time, for me at least, some people would be like, I hate this game. This game's fighting me. I think it was Joel that said that it feels like the game is fighting back at you. And it is. It feels like an all out battle with the Black Knight. He's taunting you, he's talking crap to you. It's just so much fun. I have such an appreciation for it. But if you gave me this game back when I bought Jurassic Park, there is no possible way I would have appreciated it. I probably would have said, this game sucks, and I would have traded it in. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. So it just goes to show, as you progress through the hobby, you will have more of an appreciation for stuff. And that leads me to my last thing. This is something that I was talking to actually Kim about last night. She was like, man, because she recently went through her EMT program. I'm so proud of her. She got her EMT certification, and she's trying to get a job right now as an EMT. She's worked in medical field for a while. She's worked in the fitness industry as a cycle instructor. But ultimately, if there's one thing to know about my wife, she likes helping people, and I love that about her. She just loves to help people, and I think an EMT job could not be more perfect for her. But she was just talking about experiences like, hey, a lot of the people I've met, because she's done a lot of ride-alongs, so you go to fire stations and they go and they do ride-alongs, and it's no joke. She's seeing stuff happen right then and there. Someone, passed out, someone wounded, whatever it is. So, you got to have thick skin and be able to handle that kind of stuff. And she's like, everyone's been really helpful and opening, like welcoming her in, wanting to teach her things, right? Like give their knowledge to the person with 100% like humble and just like, it's been awesome. And I've loved that for her. It made me think. I was like, man, how's my experience been in pinball? Have people welcomed me with open arms? And I'd say for the most part, the answer is yes. But there is a side of the community, it's small, that it just feels like resists anyone new coming in. And I don't get what that is. I will say this though. If you're new coming in and you're just completely like trying to pretend like you know everything, I get that that would be annoying to me too. If I was one of the people that have been in the hobby for like 20, 30 years, I'm like, oh, look at this. This person doesn't care to learn. You have to be curious. But if you come into any hobby and you're curious to learn, you should be accepted with open arms. I really think that, because if you don't do that, or if we all don't collectively do that, then the hobby does not grow. It just doesn't. What do you want? Just all the same people just talking about the same stuff over and over again? No, you want different people, different opinions. And that's the beautiful thing. So anyways, why this got brought up is she was kind of asking me like, has there been times where you felt like certain people are just trying to push you aside or push you down or whatever? And I said, yeah, there has been. But the thing is, I kind of just ignore those people. But I didn't do that, and I didn't do that always. It took me about 2 years into doing YouTube till I realized, like, why am I fighting back on the 1%? It's less than the 1%, right? There's this like very small part of every hobby you're in. It happened in the arcade hobby too, that they just want to push you. Oh, this new guy doesn't know anything, blah, blah. And by the way, no one that's new, at least no one that's humble and new, thinks they know everything. I mean, it's one of those things. I can see where if you thought you knew everything, no one really likes a know-it-all. But if someone comes into a hobby and they're acting like a know-it-all and they don't know anything, that is kind of annoying. Yeah. But if someone comes in, they're humble, they're willing to learn, they're curious, that's all people you would want in your community. You know what I mean? You would want them there. So, but yeah, it took me a little while. I think before I used to like fight back on that. And it's like, what's the point? If you really think about it, if I think about the pinball hobby as a whole, almost 99% of the pinball hobby has been very accepting, very cool, wanting to share their knowledge with me. And I think that's the reality of it. It's just that a lot of times those people that are in those corners are really loud. So they can tend to make certain people that maybe haven't got thick skin retreat. And that sucks, because I would say to that person, don't retreat, ignore that person, and keep moving forward. If this is something you really like, just ignore that person. That person's just a small percentage of the community that's like that. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you are newer to this hobby, you'll find that most people are very accepting. And if you do run into those one or two people that try to push you down or whatever, just don't hang around those people. You know what I mean? And then just have thick enough skin to go, who cares? Like, who really cares? Because that person probably wants to bother you. You know what I mean? They get off by upsetting you. And so you showing that you're upset or like, making that more public is only going to make them come at you 10 times harder. So anyways, I just think the positive of this whole thing is that I learned a lot along this journey so far. I learned a ton. And some of it, I'm stubborn. I'm a stubborn person. Some of it I want to learn by myself. Like, look, I know you're telling me I'm going to hate this game in 6 months. Let me go through this a couple times. Now, sometimes that could be really detrimental to your wallet, but you know what? Sometimes you want to learn things on your own. You want to experience them on your own. Like, even when a game breaks, and games break, they break. You have a metal ball rolling around, a bunch of plastic stuff being thrown at it at crazy speeds. Stuff breaks. The thing is, when stuff breaks, I like to learn how to fix it myself. I go do my own research. Sometimes I ask for help, but I like learning. So I like learning. And it's that curiosity factor. The best people in communities are the ones that are curious, the ones that are open-minded, the ones that want to have open dialogue. Like, those are always the most fun people to interact with. And that's really the majority of the community. So I'm loving my pinball experience. When I look back at all these games, I was kind of shocked. I'm like, holy crap, I've owned a lot of games. Like, a lot of games, man. Like, that's a lot in a very short period of time. But I think now I'm at a point, if we look at the current state of the collection, I feel like now I'm at a point where it's like all about refinement. Like, do I have variability or unique games in my collection? I do feel like this is a pretty good lineup right now. And for those of you, again, I'll repeat it. I got Jaws Premium, John Wick LE, Metallica Remastered Premium, Godzilla 70th Premium, Black Knight Sword of Rage Pro, and Terminator 2 Judgment Day. So I have all Stearns and then one Williams from the 90s. So the unfortunate thing is that what I'd like to ask you guys is there's all these new games coming. And I feel like I'm still scratching the surface on the games I have. So that is something you have to factor in. Like, it's easy to get excited about a new game coming out, but you have to think to yourself, have I really gotten far in the games that I have? And if you haven't, then maybe you invest a little bit more time in the games you have before you bring on another game. Or you find the game in your collection that you've played the most or experienced the most that you feel like, hey, I'm okay with letting this go because I feel like I've gone through a lot of the game and experienced a lot of the game. So that's the dilemma I'm currently in, because I have, out of these games, I'm really still loving Jaws, and I haven't mastered it, but I kind of know, like, I have some pretty good strategies with Jaws. Like, when I first go up to Jaws, I start by trying to close beaches. Like, that's what that's what I try to do. Metallica Remastered, that's just fun, and I kind of want to have that in the collection for a while. So that's definitely not going anywhere, and it's new. Godzilla is one of those staples. I really don't think it's going to ever go anywhere. I really can't imagine selling Godzilla. It's just too fun, and when people come over, they have a blast with Godzilla. So everyone just loves it and appreciates it. So to get rid of it would be, I still love it, and I haven't gotten to a point where I feel like I've mastered it. I feel like I'm really good at it now, but not mastered it. So anyway, so that leaves me interest to keep that in. Black Knight Sword of Rage is just one of those, like, tough, ball busting, hard, get in and get out, really fun. It's brand new, so I can't see that going anywhere. And then Terminator 2 Judgment Day, not the deepest game rule set wise, but there's a lot of nostalgia for me. I've told this story before. That was like one of my first memorable pinball experiences that I remember. I probably had pinball experiences before that, but that was one that I was like, oh my gosh, because it checked all the boxes for me as a kid. Super hardcore Arnold fan, super fan of the Terminator 2 movie. So it was like, oh my gosh, you're telling me that they made, like, it was like when they made the arcade game of Terminator 2. I was like, there's a pinball machine too? Mind blown. You know what I mean? Mind blown. So that one I can't imagine. So I am in a bit of a dilemma. I am in a bit of a pickle. I don't have any more room. I can only do 6, and I'm not going to put these games, these expensive games, in my garage, especially in Arizona. My garage is not climate controlled. I wouldn't want to do that. So anyways, this does leave me with a dilemma, because we're going into 2025. We've got Dungeons and Dragons. We have the rumored King Kong coming. Some of the other companies, you got Jersey Jack. That's the probably the most I don't know, the rumor with the most juice behind it is Harry Potter, and then you have The Matrix as maybe another game that they could do this year. I don't know. And then you have all these other like random rumors that we've covered before from like some of the other companies like Barrels of Fun and Spooky Pinball and Dutch with Back to the Future. So, but yeah, I mean, when people ask me like why all the Sterns, they're the ones I like the most. Like I like these games the most. And nothing against Spooky, but when I played the Spooky games like I've played Spooky's first game. I played America's Most Haunted. I liked it, but I wouldn't want to buy it. And then I really like Total Nuclear Annihilation, but I guess that's technically not really a Spooky game, but they made it. But I love that game. I really, really enjoy TNA a lot. And then there really aren't any other games that they have that I just want to own. So I'm not opposed to I don't have anything bad to say about the company. I feel like they're very like creative, they're innovative, they're trying new things. I think they're packing a lot of technology into their games. They just haven't made a game that I really want to buy. And that's same with Jersey Jack. If Jersey Jack reran Pirates of the Caribbean, I would want to buy that. I enjoyed that when I played that at Pinball Expo. That was the first time I've seen it in a long time, but it goes for some ungodly amount on the resale market. Man, I just feel like I know Jersey Jack hasn't, I don't know this for fact. If you can fact check me on this. I'm not sure 100%, but I don't think Jersey Jack has ever done like vault stuff where they pull old games that are sort of out of print, out of their vault, if so to speak, and redo it. I think they've rerun games, but I don't know if, like, because I would kind of consider that game as more of a vault game for them. Like it's been out of print for a long time. I'm sure there's got to be some major license implications to try to bring that back, but man, that's one where if they redid that, I'd be very serious in wanting to buy that. I think that'd be a very fun game to own. So I think I will definitely break the cycle of Stern only this year. It's just from what manufacturer and what game, because it has to check some check boxes for me personally. I have to like the theme. So far, I think outside of maybe a couple surprises where the theme didn't interest me, but I loved the game, like Bond, like it wouldn't be my first pick. But I love the way it plays. I love the way that game plays. It's wicked fun. It's a wicked fun game. So anyways, that's all I got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know it was long. It was a long episode, but you guys said last time that you didn't mind these long episodes. So hopefully you enjoyed this one. And I don't know, man. Tell me a little bit about your collection. Did you go down the same path I did? Because I definitely learned a lot along the way, along this. I don't know. I always feel it's, you know what's so weird? I always feel weird saying journey because I feel like that's Erica's thing. Erica's on a pinball journey, but I'm on a pinball journey too. It's just, I don't know. It's not Ralph's pinball journey. It's Erica's pinball journey. So I can't say that. Erica, I would owe Erica some kind of royalty fee for using Ralph's pinball journey. So anyways, Erica's awesome. If you haven't checked her out, go check her out. Erica's pinball journey. She's great. Super friendly, positive attitude, and just a good person. So anyways, that's it for now, guys. Definitely let me know about your collection. And hey, send me some voicemails. I'm running low on the voicemails. That's why we didn't do it this episode. I only had like 2. So I want to make sure that I got a good queue of them. And what would be really fun is maybe we do a whole voicemail episode. You never know. All right, guys, that is it for now. Thank you so much for your support. And by the way, the Twippies are almost here. Very excited about that. Thank you for all of you that participated in the Twippy voting. I know Colin and Jamie really appreciate it, and the whole Twippy team. So I'm very excited for the show. If you don't know, I'm going to be one of the hosts with Aaron and with Ian and with Jamie, and we're just going to have a great time. There might still be tickets available, so if you want to go down to Houston and hang out at the Wormhole with us, definitely check that out on the Twippy website. And that's it for now, guys. We will see you on the flip side. See you guys.